Well, welcome to a part two of uh, Unraveling Intellectual Property with Michael Stein, where we're talking to George Winton, president of Winton Machine. In part one, we were discussing George and his consideration of third parties and being a small guy and how you need to be mindful of third parties. Let's get to because I know we've gotten a couple of patents for Winton Machine. How, like, what goes into your calculations? I mean, it costs money, of course. What goes into your calculations when actually considering now's the time to contact Mr. Stein or whoever to actually seek protection?
To be candid with you, there's a couple answers there. One of the answers is you're looking at the long game, and when you're developing something, is there something there that's unique? Is there something there that's novel? Is there that's something that you could actually hook onto and claim that you have protection out there in the world, right? And so if there's a morsel of truth to that, then you may want to consider looking into the possibility of a patent for the very reason, when I say the long-term game, um, uh, we're not, I won't be here forever. And so at some point, this is a part, either I'm here full time, nobody gets out of here alive. I got to sell this, do something with this entity at some point. And so to move it on to the next line of management, you got to convince them that it's worth something, right? And having the IP, having some level of patent protection for something that you're going to market with helps. So just assuming it's not a paper patent on the face of it right out of the gate, you can the value of the organization rises to some extent in the minds of that are understanding of the value of the IP. So that's definitely one angle, right? Whether you have the money to support the patent or not, long term, that's a different story. But being able to increase the value of the organization through that IP is definitely of interest, to say the very least.
So would you consider getting like a paper patent because I want something on the wall? Are you looking at I'm only going to do this if, or something to brag about? Are you looking like this is going to add value and potential sale or merger or someone new, younger coming in and keeping the company going?
It's never a paper patent,
Okay.
and bragging doesn't even word doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. I believe my ego's in check. But then again, Jack the Ripper eventually, when finally interviewed, thought he was a nice guy when he thought of himself. So anyway,
Huh,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
that's true.
Um,
Based on your
so
conversations with him?
yes, when Jack the Ripper was finally interviewed back at the turn of the century, he considered himself a nice guy, right?
All
What a
right.
guy, right? I
Okay.
don't think the people of Great Britain thought that, but so a paper patent, no. I'm aware of the term, but no, it's always a matter of trying to um, uh, increase the value of the organization. Is there any value depending on how deep your pockets are? Well, you can always contact your lawyer for $500. You can send off a nasty letter to somebody, right? That's not that bad, right? So you always have that first line of defense, right? Within reason. Assuming the lights are still on and you're still profitable, you can still pull that off, right? But getting into court's a whole different story, I'm sure, which I've never experienced and not too sure I want to experience that.
I don't think
Right?
you do. I don't know anyone
Right?
who really wants to.
Right? So yeah, it's always in an effort to value the valuation of the company. It's extremely important, right? Because we're all trying to create a certain perception when we roll into those conversations with prospects down the road. And how we're going to get off this merry-go-round successfully is always a constant issue or constant concern. And so constantly find ways to make the processes better, bringing on more IP, keeping the IP in check as far as controlling the documentation, having good documentation. It's very important, very important. So when you're laying your cards out on the table down the road, the value of your organization appears to be higher.
People are people, as everyone's talking about AI. Are you implementing that at all, or are you checking it out, waiting to see as far as like from a different aspects. I mean, I'm seeing all this software on how it can go out and check whether other companies are infringing your patents for designing or helping to develop new technologies for
Yeah,
internal processes.
yeah,
Like where is Winton Machine in that
yeah, yeah,
process?
yeah. I wish I was taking notes when you were just saying it, 'cause I want to try to hit each point there. As far as going out and infringing on intellectual property, I'm hoping that my patent attorney has that software and he can quickly keep the cost of goods sold in check when he uses that new software. So he might have charged me $800 or $1,500 in the past. Now I'm expecting a bill for $300 because he has that software. I'm expecting that. As
Uh,
far as using AI in the business, I would say I've been married probably 36 years now, and I realize since AI has come on that my wife is a much better writer. I mean, she definitely has the ability to produce much spectacular writings now that AI has come around. So she's a real fan of AI. However, as far as designing something, it's very difficult for me to wrap my head around how AI is going to help you conceive the details of an invention, the spark. Now, yes, perhaps you're influenced by multiple things throughout the internet. Walking to the grocery store, you get influenced by certain things, and that can help jog your memory, and that can help perhaps you create something. But as far as sitting down and creating it, being a part of my life, I guess I'm a dinosaur at this point. So I would have to say I haven't jumped on the bandwagon to the extent that my wife has jumped on the bandwagon. But then again, I always considered myself a good writer to begin with.
uh, just to get into like the invention process at Winton Machine. I mean, you're not the only person there. What, you have like 40 employees or something?
Approximately, yes.
And then how many engineers, ballpark?
Four four degreed engineers, and but a lot of good technically savvy people here that have decades of experience, and some of your best experience and your ideas can sometimes come from machinists, right? These guys who are good machinists or assembly people, they see things that I don't, and vice versa. So, when Hillary said it takes a community, she was right at that point in time. It takes a community to pull this off. It really is, it really does.
And so, do you have regular meetings, or if someone just comes up with an idea, it just comes to you, or do you run it by people? What's the process, or is there, I mean, a small firm, you may not have an informal, or you may have a more informal process. Someone comes up with a new idea, let's say it's a machinist, does he go, hey, George, what about this? Or uh, how does, how does, how does something, some idea or innovation get to the shop floor?
You hope that it's in the people you hire. It's in the interview process, and even then, it's a gamble. It's a chance, and so you don't really know who you're hiring until they really get on board, despite what their resume says.
Mhm.
And so, we have some really sharp engineers on board right now, and I'm very thankful that they're taking a lot of the load off my plate that might have been on my plate for the last 20 years, whether it be electrical or whether it be mechanical development, design, initial design. And so these are smart people. So the very, very first thing you want to do to help improve, remember the long-term play, the value of the organization, is to make sure there's some type of documentation, signed documentation in place to ensure that, hey, when they get that bright idea, right, it's not leaving with them when they walk out the door, a year and a half from now. And so that's very important. And so, but it's the people you hire, and whether it be someone who's working on the shop floor, someone who's working in engineering. We're all working together, and we're trying to make this better. But then going to trade shows and seeing what other people are doing, looking on the internet and seeing what other people are doing. I go out to install a machine in Topeka, Kansas, and I go into a shop floor that's been there for 30 years, that factory, and you get to see what they're doing. You get to see how they're doing something, and it might be very similar to a process you saw down in St. Petersburg, Florida, a year and a half ago. So it's collecting all this information and going into these facilities, and you're seeing everything they're doing, which they allow you, they expose you to. Of course, you're there for training. You're there for training, perhaps on their machine that they purchased from you, and but it's all those influences, and it's what you do with those influences, and your ability to think. Not everyone's created equal when it comes to thinking, as you very well know, and so it's sometimes in an organization, in a very highly technical organization like this, you have to have a thinker or the thinkers, the people that can come up with the ideas to keep the ball rolling. And of course, once you have the idea, um, uh, there's three parts to the process to getting to the market successfully. It takes three things. It takes someone to have an idea. You got to have an idea, and that's worth something. The idea is worth something, and hopefully the person that has the idea either has control over manufacturing or has control over sales and marketing. So the three things are the idea, the ability to manufacture, and the ability for sales and marketing. And the ability for sales and marketing means you have the capital to support that. The idea for manufacturing means you have the capital to support that. The idea is worth something. Just having the idea is great, but if you don't have the ability to manufacture or market it, it becomes an idea that most likely won't launch from the couch. And so uh, I've had ideas over the last several decades, and I've had the ability to manufacture them and get them out to the market with enormous help from my wife. I can't do it myself, and I've been very fortunate to have a wife who has business savvy, and so that's the process that we're going through currently, and I can't see that changing given the fact that I'm almost 65 years old, and but I'm always interested for something new as far as an idea or a new process.
I assume you've had kind of, I guess, a great idea, and then the sales team says, "Yeah, that might be a great idea, but nobody wants it," or I can't sell it, or how
I
much
had
does
a
it
yeah,
cost?
yeah. I had of the numerous ideas that I've had over the decades. I had a great idea, probably about right at about 30 years ago, and it had nothing to do with the business that I'm in right now. And I tried to put the idea in front of a large corporation in Pennsylvania that has global reach, and they didn't like the idea. They didn't take the bait on the idea, but it was a great idea, and I couldn't do anything with it at that point in time. And it's an idea that I knew would fly. But I'm thinking the chemistry just wasn't there between myself and that 500-pound gorilla up there in Pennsylvania. And so the idea pretty much went nowhere. But that isn't always the case. And so I was in a market that I wasn't in then. I've never really been in that market, but won't stop me from trying to share ideas and trying to prosper in this capitalistic society.
We're getting to the end here. I probably, but briefly, probably to the other direction, maybe you've had an idea that you didn't think was much, and then you talk to someone else, and then they're like, "Yeah, I really like that." Have you had that situation?
Yes, yes, yes. I think recently um, that has happened, and let me give that a little bit more thought, and I will be glad to speak to you about that at some point moving forward.
Sounds good. Hopefully, we can get you back on. This has been very interesting. I always love talking to small business owners, but being a very dear friend, it's all the better. Any parting words, George, pearls of wisdom for other small business owners out there?
Wow, good question,
Put you on the
large,
spot.
large answer. Words of wisdom. Not necessarily IP related, but it's
Anything.
s- uh, I think when you're I wouldn't probably be anywhere nearly as successful as I am right now with the partner that I chose maybe 36 years ago. And so and and it's not like I showed up to the first date with her and I went through a litmus test or a checklist. No, but the bottom line is if you choose a partner that has a different level of financial risk than you do, then what happens is one of you will pull the other one down. And I've seen that happen, not in my particular case, but I know from experience that if your significant other's level for financial pain isn't on par with yours, then that can influence what happens to you and your family moving forward in life. So I lucked out. Our levels for financial pain were on an even keel, and that was stroke of luck on my part. It wasn't a checklist question I had.
But I mean, that would be applicable. I mean, here's a marital partner, but that would apply to a business partner as well.
100%,
Yeah,
100%. Generally someone is always a little more conservative than the other. It's fine, right? It's a check and balance, right? And so two heads are always better than one, and that's for sure. Sometimes I've been a little too quick on the fire button, but and I've had been pulled off the edge of the cliff a couple times. But yeah, two heads are better than one. So it's always good to have a reasonable sounding board to speak to as far as a partner, whether you're in business or as a personal relationship.
all right. Uh, Last plug, your email website. We're gonna have a banner up here on the podcast as well. How would someone contact George Winton of Winton Machine?
Would you repeat that question, please?
How email for Winton Machine website? How does someone contact Winton Machine?
Maybe we go to sales@wintonmachine.com. You can email
All
me
right.
at gwinton@wintonmachine.com. Um, just very optimistic. 99% of what we do has to do with building tube fabrication equipment. However, a small percentage of what we're doing is building electronic modules, assemblies for other OEMs that have nothing to do with tube bending, but they're making use of maybe our panel shop or the skills and the technology that we have in-house here in Swanee, Georgia. And so, we're all trying to stay alive and eat next month. And if it's profitable, we're most likely interested in getting involved doing it to some extent.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, George.
You're very welcome.
And to the audience, thank you for tuning in to part two of our conversation with George Winton, president of Winton Machine Company. To my audience, thank you for tuning in and look forward to seeing you on our next episode of Unraveling Intellectual Property with Michael Stein. Take care.